Hello and welcome. I'm Jerry Abbey, Head of Marketing here at Copia Automation. And with me is Nick Buckley, our Product Manager, and I will hand it to him to do a quick intro in a second. But today's webinar is a modern approach to backup and recovery for your HMIs. We're going to be leading in with a quick reminder of who Copia is and share some recent updates. And then we'll shift right into the deminar that Nick will lead. And then we'll wrap it up with some questions. All in all, this will be about a 15-minute session. Nick, can I hand it over to you for a quick intro with a little bit of your background?
Yeah, thanks, Jerry, and thanks everybody for joining. My name is Nick Buckley. I'm a technical product manager here at Copia on our vendor integrations and source control products. I've been with the company for about 3 years now, and prior to Copia was a controls engineer myself at a custom automation company here in Minnesota, where I'm located. So I'm excited to tell you more about our HMI backups here in a little bit.
Thank you, Nick. With that, we'll dive in, and I'm going to run through about a 3 to 5 minute overview and then hand it off for that demo. All right. So Copia is dedicated to industrial DevOps, founded in 2020. We've been focused on bringing the DevOps toolset, which has been in existence for 15 plus years and has really had an exponential impact on IT. We want to bring that into the OT space to help bring that same level of impact to operational technology and everybody that's working around it. Now, industrial DevOps can seem more theoretical than many want to hear within that space. And what it really is industrial code, that code that lives on your PLCs, your robots, your HMIs, and all of these different devices in the OT environment. It's taking a lifecycle management approach to treat that code in the way that it should be managed from inception throughout the lifetime of that code. And that is creating the code, adapting the code, working on that code between teams, having the ability to merge, to comment, to improve and adapt in line with the continuous improvement ethos of manufacturing and distribution. It is just bringing a level of rigor and visibility and control to this space. And it has such an exponential impact when you are automating backups and not walking around using a USB stick or a laptop to one by one get those backups. It gives you an ability to version control that code and see who's changing it, when they're changing it, why they're changing it, so that when anything happens and you need to revert that code, you know the golden code. You know which one to roll back to was the last working version of the code. And it really drives collaborative change management in the space to work together, work faster, and take that 1 + 1 = 3 or 5 or 10 by removing blockers that have limited teams in the past and allowing them to accelerate in value-adding work. And all of these slides are coming out of our recently published State of Industrial DevOps report, which I'll talk a little bit more about later. And some of the data in this left-hand side example of what today's reality could look like are actually taken from the survey data of our respondents. So this is just a rough sketch thinking about that enterprise level manufacturing or distribution facility. You have roughly 18 locations, thousands of PLCs and associated devices, a mix of people working on the code, 28 controls engineers, 75 technicians, an array of different PLC vendors in use, Siemens, Rockwell, Codesys, and many more. And that's because, like most manufacturers or distributions out there, there are mergers and acquisitions, bringing new plants into the fold. So even if you wanted to be all of one particular PLC house, it ends up being a mixed house at the end of the day. And rather than operating in all of these proprietary systems, it would be great to have a system where you can operate all of them in one place. These hypothetical manufacturers, you're going to have manual backups, ad hoc version control. If you do have a third party, you're going to have some backups, mostly focused on version control, but all of this leads to OT cyber vulnerability, incomplete asset inventories, unknown code changes, unknown code change access, outdated backups, and limited or no recovery plan because of all the things I just ran through. But today's possibility, there's a much better way. You can have live asset inventories. There's lots of solutions out there that can help run your network security and asset identification. Dragos, Clarity, Nozomi, and others help with this out there. And then automated backups, that's a sweet spot with Copia and our approach to industrial code lifecycle management. And then with this asset inventory and automated backups and rigor of code change, you can develop your rapid recovery plan and help reduce that mean time to recover, which can mean all the difference in getting your factory up and running again after a weather event, a cyber event, a human error, or a machine failure. You get centralization with this approach. You have so many devices, but everybody's able to work in this one centralized cloud-based location that is Audible ready for those events and brings your distributed teams together and allows them to work in one place. And what's more is having a solution that can help you work in all of these proprietary systems, but in this one system that pulls it all into one place for you to manage. The IT tech stack has been developed thoroughly over the last many years and decades, and this DevOps tech stack in IT is our left side of the picture here. You have companies like Red Hat, Snowflake, Microsoft, the next layer up when you're thinking about your asset management and security, your CrowdStrike, Okta, Splunk, and then getting into the space that Copia is occupying, you have Rubrik, Commvault, Veeam on the IT side. And then on the OT side, you can see you have that bottom layer networked factories, your factories, devices, and IoT coming from Schneider, Siemens, Rockwell, and others. You have your asset management and security, that Nozomi, Dragos, Clarity that I mentioned earlier, and then the backup and disaster recovery layer led by Copia. Those layers really help unite your teams and bring similar tools into the OT space to build trust with IT and to also connect in with your CISO or OT security officers, all of your security, helping to protect your environment. Now, looking at Copia today, we have our Git-based source control, which was Copia's flagship product, giving that visibility and control of your industrial code and allowing teams to work in one place. Device Link is your disaster recovery, automated backups, and where we're going to be focusing in this demo today. And then across all of it is Copia AI, bringing the power of AI across all of the great benefits that come from source control and from Device Link and from the future product suite of Copia to add value that's been tested with customers before we introduce it so that we can understand where it's going to have the most impact, like documentation, something that's often overlooked. Copia's Copilot can help you develop that documentation in seconds or minutes, like AI generated diff descriptions in Device Link so that you can know what has actually changed when you see a flag that something's changed in your backups. Copia is very focused on the importance of security and is secure by design. We introduce this rigorous change management with systems. Your backup integrity and recovery is fortified, and you have access control for your source code and development environment. Rounding it out, Copia was just named as a hot tech innovator by ABI Research because of the innovations that we've brought to market that I've touched on and that Nick will dig into more in our demo. And we've recently released the second annual State of Industrial DevOps. If you have not downloaded it yet, I highly recommend checking it out. A wealth of great data in here, including differences between the C-suite perspective versus managers, and understanding the cost of downtime, the influence of industrial code, and much, much more. It's available on our website, and if you use this QR code, you can download it now. After this, the recording will be on YouTube if you miss grabbing it right now. And with that, I am going to hand it off to Nick. Nick, do you have any slides, or should I stop sharing here?
Yeah, I can take over sharing. Thanks, Jerry.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So everybody here, we're talking, apologies, there we are. We're talking about panel view HMI backup specifically. So just to put it into perspective and give a little bit of a visual here, these are the types of Rockwell HMI devices that we're talking about. And before I get into the demo itself, wanted to talk a little bit about why HMI backups in the first place, and really there's two components that kind of answer that question. One is just it's the natural step in the industrial DevOps journey that Copia is on. We really want to cover the entire plant floor, excuse me. And initially Copia and our backup product focused heavily in PLCs, and now we're starting to branch out into these, in many cases, equally as important industrial devices like HMIs. And then the other reason we added support for this or wanted to was just hearing it from our customers. We had a specific example. I was speaking with a large food and beverage customer who had, I think, a couple thousand panel view devices deployed across dozens of facilities that they had. And the importance of backing up these panel view HMIs and their runtime files was very high for them because of the frequency that they were needing replacement and disaster recovery. In their example, most of the time it was from improper use from an operator where they're kind of abusing it and breaking the screen or otherwise damaging it, such that they had to find a replacement and load it up with the last running runtime files. So what we have done here, I'm going to share my screen once again, is we've integrated into our device link backup product and given you an easy way to add these devices to your backup schedule, as well as then perform scheduled or on-demand backups. So I'm going to quickly walk through that and talk some of the differences between Copia and maybe some other platforms that can be used to back up these devices. So setting it up within Copia's device link is quite straightforward. Simply just select the device type here. So we're going to pick an ME HMI. I can give it a name, give it a description if I wanted, and then a communication path. So this is going to be basically the address that our agent will use to talk to the device. This is simply the communication path that your factory talk links or RS links would be using to communicate normally, whether you're programming or troubleshooting or otherwise. So we enter that in here, and then I'm just going to give it a dummy value. And then the other nice thing that Copia does that is quite unique in the space is that we actually allow you to back up your runtime files from multiple locations. So if you're used to using panel view HMIs, you'll know that it has onboard internal storage, which is most often where folks will store their project runtime files. But there are additional storage locations, such as an SD card or an additional USB slot. So if you're truly interested in disaster recovery and being able to recover to the exact same state, and there's a chance that folks within your facility are perhaps storing versions on these SD cards or USBs, you can select those and back those up as well. And so we'll gather all of those and store them. So then when we perform the backup automatically, we will pull off all of those runtime files. And the difference between an HMI runtime file and maybe a more traditional PLC runtime file is that the runtime is kind of a compiled version, as opposed to the PLC version. In the case of Rockwell, it's a project that you would immediately start working on. So what Copia does, and this takes it beyond some of the other competitive positions out there, but we will actually take the backup. We'll tell you if it's been changed or not, first and foremost. But we've gone a step further and said, in addition to telling you whether or not it's been changed, we will also show you which items within the project itself have been modified. So unlike our PLC version control, we're not actually displaying the individual differences themselves, but oftentimes in the case of HMI projects, it's good enough just to know which ones have been changed. You can make a determination of whether or not that's something you'd want to access the runtime file, check out the specific changes, or check with the engineer. But all in a nice, easy interface, are you able to see the content? And if you needed to in a disaster recovery scenario, you would be able to download it directly and then reload it onto your onto your new replacement device. So yeah, I think that's kind of the quick and easy demo of our HMI backups. They're quite cut and dry, but we've gotten a lot of feedback from our users of this that they love it and are saving them time in those cases where the panel view is destroyed or otherwise unusable, and they need to get back up and running in production. So thanks for watching. You can go to questions now.